1981, when President Ronald Reagan was shot. He was shot. All those shots were fired within 6 seconds. It happened fast. He was shot, and my hero Jim Brady was also shot within 6 seconds. Secret Service was right there with him, and they didn't stop it. You know how they got the shooter? They tackled him. They couldn't secure a target and shoot him, or else didn't want to take the chance of hurting somebody else. They tackled him, but the damage was already done. Our chances of playing hero are mighty slim.
And these campus killers are not your typical hardened criminal. They're not the kind of guys who have made a living holding up liquor stores and getting into fights on Saturday night and in rough bars and probably have some scars to prove and are pretty tough, and if they get into a confrontation with a police officer, it could be a long and drawn-out thing. Most of them tend to be rather cowardly people, physically weak, and often ones who have picked the campus precisely because it is the gun-free zone. Precisely is it because one of the few places in the state where the legislature, or in some cases the misguided board of governors, have guaranteed that there won't be victim resistance, and that's why they pick these places. And what happens is when there is victim resistance, they tend to crumble very, very quickly.
The fact is that our campuses are already very safe places. Very safe places. And that includes campuses, the many, many campuses, the almost all campuses that don't allow concealed carry. I'm sure that I'll be hearing from my opponents that, well, you know, we've had concealed carry here on CSU campus, and it's been safe. Crime has gone down. And so has crime across the nation. And I think you can credit yourself for that. That's great. That's great news. All it takes is one. Any of these statistics are only as good and are only as successful as from today to the next day.
The killing goes on for sometimes 8 minutes, sometimes 13 minutes, sometimes 4 minutes. And in that period, you can't always count on the campus police getting there in time to intervene. You need the first responders to be there at the place where the attack starts, and that usually is going to be the victims themselves.
A lot of the reaction, a lot of the support for concealed carry is related to what happened at Virginia Tech and Northern Illinois. We would all like to have taken that crazy man down. I think all of us would have wanted to do anything we could in our power to stop him. But like other shooters in this situation, he was suicidal. Not much was going to stop him. I suspect that anybody who was a concealed carry, who had pulled out their gun, if they had even had the opportunity anyhow, again, the chances are so slim. If they had the opportunity, they probably would have become an earlier victim than others. That's the way it tends to go.
Remember, we're talking, and everything you hear about, oh, college students go out binge drinking and all this and that. We have, first of all, not only the experience of college campuses where licensed students have never caused any of these problems, but remember, this is also something that disarms the professors. If you have a guy who's a 50-year-old professor here who's been licensed by the state of Colorado after passing a fingerprint-based background check and a safety class to carry a firearm almost every place in the state of Colorado, does he suddenly become a menace to society when he sets foot on the Colorado State University campus? Does he get really dangerous when he's sitting in his office grading tests or conducting scientific research? I would suggest not. I'd suggest he is just as safe and law-abiding when he's at work here as he is, and as the statistics have overwhelmingly shown, all of his fellow licensed carriers are throughout the state of Colorado, 365 days a year.
I think we all know the bigger problem at Virginia Tech was that he was armed in the first place. And the fact that nobody caught him. There is prevention. There are many ways to prevent. The biggest problem there was we didn't stop him. Nobody intervened. We couldn't find anybody who cared about that man.
Enough is enough, and it's time to end these massacres on campus. Our position is both pro-choice and pro-life. We believe that people should have the right, if they have shown themselves to be responsible enough after police investigation and passing a safety class, to be able to make the choice to defend themselves. And the data have shown, the experience has shown, that this is the pro-life position where they sometimes save not only their own lives, but the lives of dozens of people. We agree, the campuses ought to be safe zones. Our view is they ought to be safe zones for the students, the employees, the professors, and all the good people who come on campus, and they should not be safe zones for the criminals, the predators, and the violent attackers who have a guarantee, who will be given a guarantee of unarmed, defenseless victims.
The position that you endorse has taken away my right to defend myself with a firearm at my son's high school, at the county court, on the campus of CSU eventually.
Yeah, and I think I'm with most Americans in agreeing that we should not allow people to be armed.
Well, I agree with your opinion.
On airplanes or in high schools.
Facts that support that opinion.
I think to answer the question about what right is a really interesting point. I think that the presumption that you're coming from is that our rights somehow come from man, but they do not. We are given the right to life and to liberty by our God in heaven, something that cannot be revoked by man. And you, sir, are trying to say that I do not have the right to defend my life or my liberty using whatever means are necessary to defend that.
I think both of you have the same right to choice in that matter. I certainly agree with you and with Thomas Jefferson of the Declaration of Independence that rights are inherent and not granted by government. But Tom has also his right to make a choice not to own a gun for protection. And I will tell you that Tom is to his credit, in a sense, hasn't brought this up. He has gotten phone calls from nuts and other people who have threatened him. I'm not sure they've actually gone to stalk him or something, but he certainly had enough hate mail and other things that would make me want to have a gun for protection if I got that same kind of vitriol. And he has his choice to deal with that in another way, and to make those same trade-offs for himself and his family is, I think you have the right to make for yourself and your family.
Question is to Mr. Mauser. It sounds like you are in support of the Board of Governors' decision, which contradicts our Constitution, U.S. and our state Constitution, on the Second Amendment. If this were another right, First Amendment right, freedom of speech, freedom to assemble on campus, freedom to a fair trial, freedom, the right to be Mirandized, would you allow those rights to be infringed at all?
I'll just briefly respond. The Second Amendment does not provide an absolute right. The First Amendment does not provide any absolute right. You cannot screen fire in a theater and use the First Amendment as a defense. If you believe that Second Amendment provides an absolute right, then you're not even in accord with the Heller ruling from last year that said it does provide an individual right, but restrictions are allowed. So it does not provide an absolute right.
The law we've got as of the moment says that it's okay to prohibit guns in sensitive places is the standard. To say you're going to completely ban guns on the Colorado State University campus seems to me to have constitutional problems.
Somebody walks through that door right now with a gun and they mean to do us all harm. Can you tell me right this minute, where is the nearest campus security officer and how long will it take them to get here?
My assumption would be at least 2 to 5 minutes.
Okay, that's very fair. Now, let me take that scenario one step further and say that somebody comes through that door with a gun, means to do us harm, and this lovely young lady right here has her firearm with her, and she is a concealed carry permit holder because she's decided that she's willing to accept the responsibility of using her firearm to protect human life. What are my chances of survival if she is here with her firearm and can protect me?